So in this segment, we're going to turn on block change tracking. It's not really an RMAN configuration parameter. It's done at the database level, but it's needed for RMAN because if you're intending to do an incremental backup, you need the block change tracking turned on. So let's show how that is done. First of all, let's see if it's enabled. It's currently disabled, so let's enable it. This is an alter database thing. Alter database enable block change tracking. Notice that there are no underscores here, and it says you must specify a change tracking file name. What I would suggest is to do this: show parameter db file dest. This suggests that this is null, so let's go ahead and populate it. I know for a fact that all the files are on. In fact, let me just show you this. Select file name from DBA data files. We know they're all on U02 data or a data. So let's go ahead and alter system set db create file dest equals to /2 or a data, and we're going to do that. Now let's do alter database enable block change tracking, and when we do that, let's host out directory now called block or change tracking, and this is where the change tracking file will end up. So that's really it for this particular episode. Just keep in mind that there are 3 different types of incremental backups: a level 0, which is really a cumulative or a full database backup; a level 1, and by default, if it's a level 1, is called a differential backup. So it's going to back up everything since the most recent level 0, or level 1, whatever is most recent. And so it just gets the data, the deltas since the last incremental backup or full backup. And there's also an incremental level 1 cumulative, and if you specify the cumulative option, then it backs up the most recent changes since the most recent level 0. So it actually accumulates all the level 1s if there are any, and that's it for this particular episode. Now that we've set up block change tracking, I just wanted to give some examples of the backup commands with the incremental options. So I'm just going to give you some quick examples. So let's just do one without a run block, actually. So let's do backup as compressed backup. Incremental 0 as compressed backup set database plus our backup set device type disk format user 3's backup slash %view database plus archive log delete all input. Let's go ahead and do backup incremental level 1 and that is a differential, incremental level 1 differential, because I just said just do an incremental level 1. Now let's do an incremental level 1 cumulative. So we're going to do that. So backup incremental level 1 cumulative as backup set device type disk format /user3 RMAN backups /%u database plus Archivelog. And that's the end of this segment, showing how the syntax for the incremental backups. In this segment, I want to talk about the show all parameter. So let's just get started with that. So, that's it. And then let's do RMAN target /catalog RMAN at grid. And the command show all will show all the configuration parameters for this particular database. We can also do a show all for DB unique name all, show all for DB unique name OCM, and we can actually do it at a more granular level. So we can say show, let's say, retention policy for DB unique name OCM, and it tells you that particular thing. So now the question is, why do we have this DB unique name thing? Well, this is necessary in a data guard environment where you would have more than one unique name. So, and it's important in that particular case for the Archivelog deletion policy, because generally you're going to set your Archivelog deletion policy slightly differently. In the primary database, especially if you're taking backups there, you're going to say, you're going to change your Archivelog deletion policy to applied on all standby, but that's for a later segment. For right now, I just wanted to show you the show all command, and there was a number of different options there. And that concludes this episode, or segment. In this segment, I want to talk about the backup optimization RMAN configuration parameter. Let's just go ahead and sign into RMAN. Turned off by default, but we want to have excuse me, go ahead and turn it on. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll explain what it is. Configure backup optimization, and it's as simple as that. Show backup optimization, and what backup optimization does is it keeps us from backing up duplicates of the data files or the Archivelog directory, so Archivelog files. So this is a good thing. So it just eliminates dupes from being backed up. And that concludes this particular segment. So in this segment, we want to talk about your Controlfile auto backup parameter for your configuration, RMAN configuration. Let's go ahead and sign into RMAN. Okay, Okay, so our Controlfile auto backup is actually already turned on. The command to do that is configure Controlfile auto backup on. By default, it's turned off, but you always want to turn that on. So by default, it goes to your DB recovery file dest. So if you take a backup, you'll see that, in fact, we'll go ahead and log out of here. We'll go to our mass recovery area. Actually, let's log in here. Show parameter recovery file dest. Show parameter DB recovery file dest. And let's go ahead and go to that location. Fast recovery area. It's going to be an OCM, and then there should be a directory called Autobackup, and sure enough, there is Autobackup. And so I've created different auto backups lately. So let's look at 2016, 0320. Let's look at the last one, 26, and see I've made several backups, and the auto backups are already created when we do this. So they're created locally by default. So this is their location, although you can change that, but by default they go here. And that's all I wanted to talk about on this particular segment, just to make sure that during the exam we turn on Controlfile auto backup to turn it on. So in this segment, I want to talk about retention policy, the RMAN configuration retention policy. So let's look at RMAN right now. So right now it's set to redundancy of 1, which is a default, but you have 3 options. You can configure the retention policy to none. You can configure the retention policy to redundancy, say 7, so you have create 7 backups. But the most popular is to configure retention policy to recovery window of say 7 days. So this is the most popular, and you'll be asked to set this during the OCM exam. So what does the retention policy do? This governs how much backups we retain. So a redundancy of 7 means we back up 7 backups before we start deleting the old ones. And a recovery window of 7 days is we keep enough backup information to be able to recover within 7 days. And that's all there is about this particular segment. So in this segment, I want to talk about the Archivelog deletion policy in RMAN. So let's go ahead and sign into RMAN. So right now it's set to none. So what this actually means is that it will default to whatever the retention policy is. What you can do is you have 3 choices. You can either set it to none, you can set it to configure policy to back up 2 times to device type disk. But the most popular is to set it to either none or set it to configure This is important because later, when we're working with data card, you'll be asked to do this on the primary. So I'm going to go ahead and set it back to none for now. Actually, I'll just say clear. And let's do a show. And we can see that the Archivelog deletion policy is set back to none. And that's all for this segment. So in this segment, I want to show how to configure parallelism with the RMAN configuration parameters. So let's go ahead and log into RMAN. Now, let's go ahead and configure our channels. Notice that this is very similar to allocating a channel. We're configuring a channel, and we have to actually give it a number rather than a character channel name. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do configure channel 2 device type disk format /RMAN backups /%u. Let's do a show all. Okay, so now we see in our show all, we see these now are in there that they weren't there before, but we also have to change this line as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Configure device type disk parallelism to backup type to say compressed backup set. So now our configuration is complete. Let's go ahead and take a backup. So let's do, let's just go ahead and say backup as compressed backup set database plus log delete all input. And you can see now it creates two channels, 1 and 2, and that's because of how we set this up. So once this is finished, we'll be done. So one other thing I wanted to do is let's do a show all. Let's go ahead and remove the configuration. So let's do configure channel 1 device type disk clear. Configure channel 2 device type disk clear. And let's do a show all at this point. Configure device type disk clear. Now let's do a show all. So now we're back to where we were. And that's the end of this segment.